Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to Sketch. This is the first episode on your journey of learning Sketch. In this video, we're going to kick off the basics with artboards and layers. First things first, you're going to want to open Sketch. Hopefully you already knew that. If you come down here to the Launchpad, you'll find Sketch either on this screen or one of your other screens. Go ahead and click on it to open it, or as I like to do, click and drag it into your quick launch down here at the bottom. Now, one cool thing about the quick launch, if you click and hold, you'll see all of your previous or most recent Sketch projects. So it's kind of an easy way to quickly launch something you've been working on in the past. I'll go ahead and just select open and get the start screen. Alright, from here you'll also see projects you previously worked on, stuff that's the most recent. You can go ahead and click on one of those to launch it. Or you can go over here to templates. You can launch one of those guys here. You got material design, Android icon design, lots of cool stuff. We're not going to be going through any of that today. We're going to stick with plain Jane and just launch a new document. So I will double click that guy and open up Sketch. I'm going to go ahead and click the little green button here to maximize Sketch, and now I've got the whole thing in my window here. Now if you don't want to work in the canvas and you want something a little more predefined, you can insert an artboard. An artboard is a great way to design for maybe a particular device type or size. Let me show you an example here. So if you click on the drop down here in the upper left, you can come down here to Artboard or hit A on your keyboard as a shortcut. And then you'll notice on the right hand side here you've got this drop down that gives you different devices and sizes to work with. You can go for Apple devices. You've got some of the latest iPhones. You can do iPads, Apple Watch, Apple TV even. You can come down here, select Android devices, responsive websites, different paper sizes, or even custom. If you have something custom like a Facebook cover page, an icon, what have you, you can totally customize that for whatever it is you're working on. In order to create a custom size artboard, just come down here to the bottom, click Create Custom Size. You can name it here, give it a specific size, whatever you like, and click Save, and then it'll show up here under your custom artboards. Alright, to get us started, I'm going to go ahead and insert an artboard and show you some of the practices I follow. I'm going to go ahead and just select an iPad Pro. We've got that here. If I want to change the orientation, I can come up here and click on Landscape. If that's what I'm designing for, I'm going to go ahead and just switch back to Portrait. Now, if for some reason you needed to, if you were working on a custom artboard or something different, you could also click and drag to resize whatever you're working on to the dimensions that you require for your design. I'll hit Command Z to go back. Now you'll also notice that over here on the left hand side, this is the layers panel. I've got a iPad Pro in my layer. One thing I like to do is rename things as I go for whatever I'm working on. So I'm just going to click on it once. It'll give me the option to rename, and I'm going to say iPad Pro Design and enter. This helps you stay organized as you start adding things to your design. If you have multiple iPad Pro Design artboards here, then it helps to stay organized with what it's called or what state that's in. So as an example of that, I'll go ahead and add another artboard. I'm going to hit A. Come over here, and let's say this time I'm going to add an iPad mini. So now you'll see on the layers panel I've got the iPad mini here as well. So anything that I'm adding to these artboards is going to start falling under that particular artboard. So we've got the oval under the iPad mini, and we've got the rectangle under the iPad Pro. Another thing to note in order to stay organized is you can click and drag these and move them around if needed. You also see these little red lines called smart guides that kind of help you snap it into place once it's aligned. So if I needed to put it above, I'd have the option of doing that, and I can line them up on the left edge, the right edge, or top edge using those smart guides, which is very, very handy. Now you'll notice that I'm repositioning the screen here as I work. If you hold down the space bar on your keyboard and then click and drag, you can move things around. Or I'm using also the wheel on my mouse. So I've got this guy here that I recreated based on the wallpaper I was using. It's underneath this artboard called iPad Pro Design. So if I click the down arrow, you can see all the elements of the design. I've renamed them to make it easier to tell what's what, which really helps when you're going through your designs. So I've got the main background, ground, clouds, moon, and castle. And they are stacked in that order. So looking at this, the castle is the uppermost layer. So anything that I drag around is going to appear behind the castle. So if I click this moon, for instance, it's going to appear behind because in the stack in the layers panel, it is below the castle. Even if I make it bigger, I'll do that. You'll notice that it's still behind the castle, but it is in front of the clouds. Looking at our example over here, the clouds are beneath the moon. Now if I click and drag the moon behind the clouds, you notice that it now appears behind everything still. If I click and drag the moon above everything, just like in our example from before, it is somehow magically in front of everything else. All right, I'll go ahead and undo that. All right, now let's look at an example of grouping in a much cooler sense. So we've got the clouds here. We can go ahead and hold Shift, select both these guys, hit Command G, and we'll group them. Call these clouds. So now I still have access to the clouds individually, but now they're grouped, and if I move them, they move as one, which is great. I can also take this and group it with the moon if I wanted to, and we can just call this, let's call it sky. And if I move these, same deal. They move as one, which is really cool. You'll find that grouping is a great way to stay organized. Rather than having a ton of layers listed here, grouping just allows you to get a little more organized and keep things cleaned up here in the layers panel, which helps when you have a ton of stuff there. All right, last but not least, let's talk a little bit about symbols. I've got the design we used in the last section. I duplicated that, added kind of a daytime scene here with the sun, the clouds, everything's lightened up a bit. But you'll also notice on the bottom I created a start button. I'm going to turn this into a symbol, and I'll show you what that looks like over here in the layers panel. So with that selected, I'm going to come up here to the top, click on symbols. It's going to ask me to name it. I'm just going to call it start button for now. Click OK. And you'll notice that now this has this little yin-yang kind of arrows next to what was the group before. Now what symbols are going to allow you to do is duplicate this element into separate artboards, and when you make changes to that main symbol, the changes will be propagated to your other designs, which is very helpful when you're using things like buttons or backgrounds, borders, things like that. Whatever elements you have in your design, you can change it in one place and have it changed in multiple other places automatically. So let's go ahead and add another one of those. I'm going to select my right side artboard over here, the daytime one. I'll come over here to the insert menu. Let's go down to symbols, and we're going to insert this start button. We'll place that here in our design. Okay, so now I've got it added to both artboards, but let's say I want to make a change over here to the main button, and I want it to propagate to this guy over here. I'll go ahead and double click on it, and I'll go into the main instance of this. I'm going to click the little drop down arrow over here in the layers panel. I'm going to click on the rectangle, that's just the shape portion, and let's say I want to change the color. Let's go to something, let's make it, let's go red, or maybe like an orange. Okay, so now when I click return to instance, you'll notice that both buttons are now changed, and they've been affected by that change that I made to the main button. And that is a great way to save yourself a lot of time instead of having to go into each individual artboard and make individual changes. Alright, that's pretty much it for this one. We'll jump ahead in the next lesson and talk about the tool panel up top. I'll see you then.